Let's get started here. If anybody joins, they can just join in at any point, so it'll be okay. Okay, so thanks everyone for joining. I'm going to be doing a presentation today about your fertility, your future, and understanding your options. Um, have you ever been asked, when are you going to have kids? Isn't it getting late? I know I was asked this question more times than I would have liked. And I know how frustrating, overwhelming, and anxiety-inducing these questions can be. That's exactly why I wanted to host this webinar, to break down fertility in a way that makes sense, explore the options that are available to you, and most importantly, help you feel confident in your own fertility timeline, and to ensure that the only timeline that matters is yours. For the purposes of this presentation, I'll briefly go over the female reproductive tract, the effects of age and lifestyle on your fertility, what your options are, including fertility preservation, eligibility, health and safety concerns, and cost and financing options. We'll have some time at the end of the webinar for questions. You can type in your questions in the chat as we go along or ask them at the end. I tried to keep the participant number low so you have the opportunity to ask any questions you might have. You can also email me or give me a call if you think of anything after the webinar. Okay, so let's start with a little bit of background about me so you know who I am and why OvoLife exists. So I'm a mom to a 9-month-old beautiful baby girl. I'm a certified embryologist and I'm a scientist. My journey started with a bachelor's in biology right here in Toronto. Then I moved across the pond to the UK for a master's and PhD in reproductive health at the University of Oxford. And I actually managed to get pregnant right as I was finishing my PhD because clearly I love a challenge. Balancing a baby, a career, and my own goals was like trying to juggle while running a marathon. And if you know me, you know I like things done yesterday. So this was a steep learning curve for me. At the same time, I'd always wanted to work at the intersection of fertility and women's empowerment because I think there's a lack of information and support in this field. As women, we're finally getting the freedom to pursue careers, passions, and life on our own terms. Yet when it comes to our fertility, many of us still feel rushed, pressured, or are just uninformed about our options. And that's the problem. And I'm here to tackle the taboos and stigmas around talking about fertility. So I took my personal experiences, mixed it with my scientific background, added my passion for reproductive health, and that's how OvoLife was conceived. My goal is to give women the knowledge and options they need to take control of their fertility before they have to start making compromises. Because we should be making empowered choices, not racing against the clock. Let's talk about it, let's normalize it, and most importantly, let's make sure every woman has the power to decide when motherhood is right for her. Let's dive right into it and start by looking at the female reproductive system, focusing on our eggs. So what exactly are eggs? Eggs are the reproductive cells that females are born with. They're produced and stored in the ovaries before we're even born, while we're still developing in our mother's womb. There's a fascinating saying we were taught in school that always stuck with me, and that is, the egg that created me was once inside my grandmother. And it's true. When my mom was growing inside my grandmother, she already had her full lifetime supply of eggs, one of which would eventually become me. I always found this fascinating, but it drives home the fact that we are born with a limited number of eggs. And unlike other cells in our body, we don't make more. Once they're gone, they're gone. Eggs are the very foundation of human life. They carry half of the genetic material needed to create a child. And when one egg is fertilized by sperm and successfully implants in the uterus, pregnancy begins. So to put it simply, without eggs, none of us would be here. What else is required for a healthy pregnancy? So we need viable, good quality eggs, viable, good quality sperm, fertilization, and good development of the embryo, along with a successful implantation into the uterus. We'll dive a little bit more into the viable, good quality eggs part of the equation for the rest of this webinar. In future webinars, I'll cover other topics looking at the other parameters needed for a healthy pregnancy. Now that we know what eggs are, what is considered a good egg? When we're talking about the quality of eggs, there's multiple things to take into account. First, a healthy egg needs to have the correct number of chromosomes, which carries our DNA, and that number is 23. So we get 23 of our chromosomes from the egg, and the other 23 from the sperm. In some cases, especially with eggs from an older woman, the separation of the chromosomes during cellular division doesn't occur properly, and that affects the number of chromosomes. So that results in an egg that could have too many chromosomes or too little chromosomes than normal. And the most common type of this is seen in Down syndrome, where there's an extra chromosome number 21, and the prevalence of Down syndrome increases as the age of the mother increases due to those difficulties in the division processes in the egg. Other chromosome abnormalities could be responsible for miscarriages, implantation failure, and other causes of failed pregnancy. But chromosomes aren't the only factor. A good quality egg also needs enough energy to support fertilization and embryo development. And this energy comes from mitochondria, which are tiny structures that are found inside the egg that fuel the early embryo growth. Since mitochondria are passed down only from the egg, not the sperm, the embryo's energy supply depends entirely on the egg's quality. Another important part of the egg is the zona pellucida, which is an outer protective layer that keeps the embryo contained until it's ready to implant into the uterus. The egg also provides all the initial cellular structures for embryo development, while the sperm only contributes its DNA. So you can see that the egg quality is really important here. Finally, lifestyle choices, hormone balances, and most importantly, age all play a really important role in egg quality. Since we're born with all of the eggs that we're ever going to have, time naturally impacts their viability. So in short, a good quality egg is genetically healthy, it's energy rich, and it's structurally intact, giving it the best chance of leading to a successful pregnancy. Now, if we look at things from purely an egg and sperm perspective, women are an important, if not the most important part of the equation when it comes to having a baby, because like I mentioned, we have a limited number of eggs that are diminishing in number and quality as we age. Let's focus on this a little bit more here. Did you know that we have the most eggs we'll ever have before we're even born? When we're in the womb, a baby girl has about 6 to 7 million eggs. By the time she's born, that number has already dropped to 1 to 2 million. And by puberty, only 300,000 to 400,000 eggs remain. What happens to the rest of these eggs? They naturally die off in a process called atresia, which continues throughout our lifetime. From the moment menstruation begins, egg loss speeds up even more. So with each cycle, a group of eggs is recruited, but only 1 or 2 of these eggs reach full maturity and are ovulated, meaning that with each cycle, we don't just lose a single egg, we lose many more. And over time, this constant depletion means that our egg count keeps dropping. And the pace of that loss accelerates even more as we age. But like I mentioned, it's not just the quantity that declines, the quality does as well. Younger eggs tend to be healthier, while older eggs are more likely to have genetic abnormalities. Just like other parts of our body, eggs age as well. And the longer they've been around, the more they've been exposed to factors like radiation, toxins, and genetic mutations. Lower quality eggs are less likely to fertilize, they're less likely to develop into a healthy embryo or implant successfully into the uterus. So to put it simply, as we age, we have fewer eggs, and the ones that we do have are of lower quality. And that's why fertility naturally declines as we age. If you take a look at this figure here, it tells an important story about fertility. So under the age of 35, about 4 mature eggs are needed to produce one normal embryo, meaning there's roughly a 25% chance of pregnancy. But as we age, that number changes drastically. So by the age 42 and beyond that, it takes about 20 mature eggs to achieve the same results. What does that mean? The older we get, the more eggs we need to achieve a successful pregnancy. But the challenge here is that the number of eggs we have decreases with age. And like I mentioned, the quality of those eggs declines as well. That's why younger eggs generally offer a better chance of a healthy pregnancy. Now that we've looked at the age and the impacts it has on fertility, let's explore another factor, which is our lifestyle choices. When it comes to fertility, the same lifestyle choices that affect your overall health also impact your egg quantity and quality. So smoking, for example, creates oxidative stress, which can damage the DNA in the eggs, and it can speed up egg loss. Excessive alcohol consumption increases oxidative stress and again can disrupt ovulation. Poor diet, especially ones that are high in trans fat, sugars, and lacking in antioxidants, can harm egg quality and they can increase inflammation. Weight extremes matter too, so excessive weight can cause hormone imbalances, while too little body fat can lead to irregular periods. Chronic stress and lack of sleep can throw off hormone levels. Environmental toxins like pesticides, heavy metals, and pollution can interfere with reproductive hormones as well. And here's something important to consider. The longer we expose our eggs to harmful habits, the greater the impact. For example, let's say you started smoking when you were 20. The eggs that you ovulate at 25 have only been exposed to those toxins for 5 years. But by the time you're 40 and you're still smoking, those eggs have been exposed for almost 2 decades, which makes them even lower in quality. Since we can't grow new eggs, is there a way we could improve their quality? Egg quality is mostly age dependent, and many external factors that impact it are irreversible. That's why younger, healthier eggs offer the best chance for a successful pregnancy. However, while we can't turn back time, we can take steps to protect our remaining eggs from future damage. So here are some ways you could do that. Eating a balanced diet rich in antioxidants and healthy fats, limiting alcohol and avoiding smoking, managing stress through mindfulness exercises and relaxation techniques, prioritizing sleep to regulate your hormones, considering supplements like CoQ10 and folic acid. These all might be able to support egg health. And it's never too late to adopt a healthier lifestyle. And these small changes today can make a difference in protecting your future fertility. So now that we've discussed age and external lifestyle factors that can affect our eggs, what options do we have for parenthood? While natural conception is the ideal route, it can become more challenging as we age, whether that's due to career aspirations, personal reasons, or medical conditions. These could all affect you being able to conceive naturally. This is largely because egg quantity and quality decline over time, and the uterus can also become less receptive to pregnancy. Social egg freezing is a great option for women who are either career focused and want to delay parenthood, they're still looking for the right partner, they're not emotionally ready for children, they're facing medical conditions like endometriosis, PCOS, or they're needing treatment for cancer or even gender-affirming surgery. By retrieving the eggs at a younger age and freezing those, you're preserving better quality eggs for future use. For example, if you're freezing eggs at 28, this could give you a better chance of pregnancy at 35, let's say, compared to using eggs retrieved at the age of 35. Another option that's available is creating embryos via IVF and freezing those. This is ideal for couples in a committed relationship who want to have children later on in life. It's also ideal for those who have been trying to conceive for over a year. It's ideal for individuals who want to secure future family building options. And the advantage of frozen embryos over frozen eggs is that the fertilization step is already complete. So with frozen eggs, there's the extra step of thawing them, fertilizing them, and using them. For the embryo freezing, you can skip those steps. So it makes the process smoother when you're ready to conceive. Fertility preservation, however, like egg freezing, empowers you to take control of your reproductive future, and it gives you more flexibility and peace of mind. So I'll go into the details of fertility preservation a little bit more here. Egg freezing is the medical procedure where eggs are retrieved from the ovaries. They're frozen at very low temperatures and stored for future use, giving women the option of having children later. Egg freezing is considered a backup option in case you're not able to conceive naturally when you want to have kids. Even though it's not guaranteed, it significantly increases your chances of pregnancy if you're struggling to conceive later in life. The benefits of egg freezing is that you're freezing younger, healthier eggs for future use. The process of egg freezing begins with a consultation where the specialist will look into medical history and offer some blood and ultrasound diagnostic tests. Once those results are back and egg freezing is decided on, then there's about 2 weeks of hormonal injections to induce the ovaries to produce multiple mature eggs rather than one or two. The progress of the hormonal medications is checked within those 2 weeks with blood tests and ultrasound. And once the eggs are ready, there's a minimally invasive procedure where a needle is passed through the vagina into the ovaries and the eggs are retrieved. The eggs are then checked in the lab by embryologists, such as myself, and frozen using advanced techniques. The frozen eggs are then stored at very low temperatures, and I mean really low, so it's minus 196 degrees Celsius, until the patient is ready to use them. Once the patient is ready to have children, they can try to conceive naturally, and if that's not successful, then they can use the younger eggs and go through an IVF cycle to produce better quality embryos. To use the eggs, the embryologist thaws the eggs, uses a sperm sample, whether that's from a partner or a donor, creates the embryos, and then those embryos are transferred into the uterus to hopefully result in a healthy pregnancy. So why should you freeze your eggs earlier? Looking at some more stats here to emphasize the fact that younger eggs are better. For women under the age of 35, approximately 70 to 90% of eggs are genetically normal, which reduces greatly to only 10 to 20% for women over the age of 40. So freezing eggs at a younger age results in eggs that are more likely to be genetically normal and more likely to result in embryos that are genetically normal and a healthy pregnancy later on. So who's considered eligible for egg freezing? Eligibility for egg freezing considers a variety of different factors, including results from diagnostic tests, and it depends on an individual basis. However, here's an overview of who might be eligible. The earlier you consider egg freezing, the better. We tend to say that the age range where egg freezing would be a good option is from 20s to mid-40s, but again, the earlier, the better. Anyone going through medical issues such as endometriosis, genetic factors, or prior to cancer treatment, anyone wanting to delay motherhood for whatever reason, whether it's personal reasons, it's career reasons, your ovarian reserve and general health is a really important factor, which is checked with diagnostic tests. And it's also important to consider the psychological aspect of egg freezing, which we'll go over in a little bit. Many people ask me, is it worth freezing my eggs? And my answer to this question is yes. The eggs you freeze today will always be higher quality than the ones you might have or you might retrieve in the future. If fertility preservation aligns with your goals, it's an investment in future options and it gives you peace of mind. However, egg freezing isn't just about biology, it's also an emotional and psychological decision. So I'll briefly go over the health and safety of egg freezing because I know it's something that's commonly thought about and it raises a lot of questions. So egg freezing is considered generally safe. There are some rare side effects, such as bloating, headaches, and nausea, which could come up during those 2 weeks of hormonal stimulation of the ovaries, but these are very similar to mild PMS symptoms, and they don't last any longer than those 2 weeks. There may be some soreness around the site of injections, but overall symptoms are quite rare and they're really manageable. One condition that's very rare, but good to point out, is ovarian hyperstimulation, which might occur if a high number of eggs are retrieved. When lots of eggs are retrieved, the ovaries might respond by fluid retention, which can cause bloating of the abdomen and some pain. If this does occur, the fluid needs to be released, which can be done in a simple procedure. The egg retrieval procedure itself is minimally invasive. It does involve a needle being passed through into your ovaries and the eggs being aspirated out. However, you are going to be given sedation to make the process more comfortable and manageable. And there are no known long-term effects associated with egg freezing. There are some psychological considerations when it comes to fertility preservation. It can be an emotionally heavy decision to make, and it's important to acknowledge the feelings that you might go through. Everyone will have a different experience, but feelings that we have commonly heard of are anxiety and uncertainty, stress, pressure to decide, but there's also really good feelings of excitement and empowerment. So it's important to have coping strategies and emotional support systems in place, such as support groups, family, friends, and try to acknowledge your feelings and seek help if you're finding it difficult to cope with. Remember that even though egg freezing is not guaranteed, it's a tool which can be really empowering and it can give you a lot of options in the future. And always remember that there are resources to help you through this or whatever else your fertility journey might look like. It doesn't necessarily have to be egg freezing. I'm always available if you're struggling with anything and need some guidance. You can always reach out to me. I'm happy to help you through it. In terms of safety considerations, all clinics in Canada adhere to regulatory standards, and reputable clinics offer great services and support channels to help you through it. We've partnered with a clinic in Richmond Hill, and we've also partnered with a clinic in California who can provide the clinical expertise needed if you choose to go ahead with them for any sort of treatment. Fertility clinics will ensure that you go through the proper screening process and that you go through controlled stimulation to try and avoid any side effects that might arise. There will be post-procedure follow-ups and checks on you physically and emotionally. Overall, even though deciding on egg freezing might come with its challenges, it's considered a positive experience. And there are resources to help you go through the process. So you don't have to go through it alone. I'll briefly go over the cost and financing options that are available as well, and then we can head into our Q&A session. So the consultation and most of the diagnostic tests are covered by your Ontario Health Card. Once you decide to go ahead with the egg freezing cycle, there are some upfront costs for the egg freezing procedure, which is fixed for everyone, depending on the clinic that you're with. There are additional medication costs, which vary depending on your body's response to the medication. There's an annual storage fee associated with keeping the eggs frozen, and there are some future costs to consider for using the frozen eggs, which include an IVF cycle. The costs vary depending on the clinic, but the clinics that we've partnered with offer competitive pricing and they'll work with you to make the process easier. Now, we fully understand that the cost of fertility preservation can be quite high. And so I wanted to let you know what financing options may be available for you. So there are some insurance plans which cover costs of medication, and in some cases, they even cover costs of fertility treatments. There are also some employer fertility benefits. For example, I know most major banks offer fertility benefits to their employees. And there are some clinic-specific financing options as well. There's some specialized fertility financing companies, as well as some tax credit rebate options available in Ontario. So it's good to reach out to your insurance and employer to check what options are available to you. There are also some government funding options available for IVF cycles. If you're eligible for it, it could help with future costs as well. So we at OvoLife want to give you all of the information you need to empower yourself to make choices based on your goals and ambitions rather than your biological clock. We're here for you every step of the way and to answer any questions that you may have. I'll go into some next steps for you here, and I'll leave you with some things to consider before deciding what's the right move for you. So I think it's a great idea to reflect on how your lifestyle and aspirations align with your fertility goals. It's good to take time to explore and envision what your future looks like and what your future plans are. You should look into financial options available to support your journey. And remember that even though it can be quite a daunting thing to think about, the earlier you decide on what you want your fertility future to look like, the better it is. So thank you so much for your attention, and I hope I answered some of your questions. Again, here are my personal contact details if you want to get in touch with me. I'll open to questions now. You can turn on your mic if you have questions. I'll look into the chat as well. Just give me 1 second. Okay, so there's no questions in the chat as of yet. If anybody has questions, please feel free to turn on your mic or write your question in the chat. I know it's quite a sensitive subject and I went through a lot of things here, so it might take some time to digest all of the information. So again, if you do come up with any questions, you can give me a call, email me. On Instagram, you could message us as well. So I'll see if there's any. Okay, does the long-term use of birth control affect your chances of conception? So there has been some research into this, and typically if you stop using birth control for at least 3 months before you start to try naturally, your body should go back into its usual hormones, and things shouldn't be affected. But it's something that you can look into. So if you stop taking birth control, you could have some blood tests done after a couple of months just to see what your hormone levels are. The effects of it would be mostly age rather than the birth control. So if you stop birth control at, say, like 30 years of age and you're having children at 35, the effect of that is because of your age, not really the use of birth control, if that makes sense. But yeah, there are tests that you can do to make sure that everything is normal, such as blood tests. Next question, how long does the whole process take? So from when you start your consultation, you could start your egg freezing procedure within 2 months. So you'll have to do some blood tests and it takes some time to get some of the results for that. And then you will have the 2 weeks of hormonal injections. So within 2 to 3 months, you can start the process. And if you've done some fertility tests before, they can be used as well. So you don't have to do the test over again. Okay. Any other questions? Okay, so I think that's it for now. Thank you for those questions. Again, if you have any other questions, feel free to reach out. Um, so great. Thank you guys for the good comments and feedback. So I'll leave you guys with this quote that I found, and I think it's really an interesting one. So we live in a time where science and empowerment go hand in hand, and egg freezing is proof of that. So you have the chance to decide your future on your own terms. And I think that's really powerful and really empowering. So again, if you come up with any questions, feel free to message me. I'll be covering other topics in future webinars. So if there's anything specific that you want to hear about, please let me know. This was just a brief overview of everything. But yeah, I'm happy to do any topics that you're interested in. I hope you enjoy the rest of your weekend, and I'll see you guys in the next webinar, hopefully.